one thing your customers should do if they're going out shopping for 3PL is you're purchasing a culture. Is that 3PL aligned? It's like a marriage. It's not always the prettiest girl you want to marry. You want to make sure there's a lot more in common. You want to make sure culturally you guys are aligned.
Welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath, the owner of Caravan Digital. We're a digital marketing agency for e-commerce brands. Today, I'm speaking with Harry Drajpuch. Harry is from Amware Fulfillment, and we are going to talk all about fulfillment. Harry, welcome.
It's great to be here, Egan. I'm excited about the next half hour or so.
Right on. Sounds good. Tell us a bit about what you do and maybe how you got into this too.
Well, what I do is I run a third-party logistics company that does 17 million shipments a year, e-commerce fulfillment in the area of health and beauty, nutraceuticals, lotions and potions, as we like to call it, and apparel. And I got into this business in a very strange way. I was a business form salesman and made a cold call on a trucking terminal. And they didn't buy any business forms, but they asked me if I wanted a job selling trucking. And so that goes back to 1980. And that's how I got started in logistics.
All right. Pre-e-commerce. And how did you guys get into the direct-to-consumer e-commerce side of things?
We took a look. We took a look at where there would be an opportunity to compete. When I started here, there were a lot of small. It's a fragmented industry. A lot of smaller companies. A lot of choices for consumers to make in this space. And we thought, how do we want to carve out a special position for us? Where can we really add value and make a difference? And so we thought e-commerce would be the way to go, that it was growing at 17-20% a year. And then COVID happened, and we had really significant tailwinds as a result of that. I mean, it really accelerated e-commerce. So we made the right decision, and we haven't looked back since.
That's excellent. I'm curious, when clients come to you or when new brands come to you, kind of where are they at? What are the challenges that they're facing with their order fulfillment?
So when clients come to us, it's usually a success story of we've got a ton of orders, our business is growing, and we can't keep up anymore. We're not getting orders out same day. We're not getting them out second day. We're now getting them out third or fourth day. My parcel bill is growing. The cost of me doing this now, because my business is growing, you'd think we're making all sorts of money doing that. But my costs are going up faster than my revenues, and I need help. And usually that's when they reach out and say, what can you do for us? How can you help us?
Got it. So they've got the sales rolling in, but the fulfillment is really the challenge, and that's where it makes sense to talk with you guys.
Costs start to go up. They start to have to add more people. They're running out of space. They can't do it out of the garage anymore, or the space that they're into, the 10,000 feet that they might have rented, they've suddenly outgrown. They've got stuff in the parking lot. They're praying it doesn't rain so their product doesn't get wet.
No, it's amazing. It sounds like you've really seen it all. I'm curious, we were talking a bit before, and you sort of said, that the costs of this have really changed. We talk a lot on this show on What's Working in E-commerce about, the marketing side of things. Ad costs always seem to be rising. What's the story in, fulfillment and shipping with those?
Well, our costs are going up as well. Rent, for instance, over the past year in any major market, I'll say in the markets of California, Arizona, New Jersey. Those are strong states for having distribution points. The rents have literally doubled. I'm paying more for warehouse space than many people pay for office space. That's how high it's gone up. So we've seen that. Labor market has been very, very tight since COVID happened. So labor rates are going up in those same markets, virtually in every market. You're going to be hard pressed to find warehouse labor at less than $20 an hour. I mean, that's how tight the market has gotten for labor here. And then everything else that goes along with it, benefits that you provide employees. So all those costs have gone up. And when I buy in volume. I have 2.5 million square feet of real estate space. I have 1,000 employees. So when I go to market, I'm able to leverage those numbers for the best deal. I can't imagine how a typical customer of yours who's not quite that big would struggle in having to pay rates, and whether it's space or whether it would be for people and make it an attractive place for people to come to work. It's got to be a bigger struggle when you don't have critical mass.
Yeah, it sounds like there's really benefits to scale. And when people are just starting to achieve that, that's the challenge. I know you mentioned a bit, we were looking at something about, how do businesses scale without large capital investments? Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
All right, let's talk about the first area, scaling without large capital investments. Well, because I have 2.5 million square feet, I have 1,000 associates, and I do 17 million shipments a year. I've got to have technology help me do what I do, especially if I want to do it on a same day basis, which we do. 99% of our shipments go out same day. So you can take advantage of what I've got. And I've got technology in all sorts of areas. My warehouses have drones flying around doing inventory checks. We have robots that don't pick product, but robots take the place of all the movement that takes place in a warehouse. 50% of my cost inside of a warehouse is actually employee travel. So when it comes to an employee expense, I'm paying 50% for the time that they travel within the warehouse, where they walk to the product and then they walk to a packing area and they move product around. The robots now actually do the movement, and the people are pretty much stationary in an area of the warehouse, and they can just pick. So I have robots, I have drones, I have voice picking, voice activated picking, in which in multi languages, the employee puts on a headset and they get instructions in that headset. I have pick to light. In other words, where lights light up and employees just walk over to that location where there's a light and pick that. So that level of technology, I can spread across 200 customers. If an individual customer who's probably too small to afford any of this technology were to try it, they would be buried with the cost. And then what technology do you buy? And it gets outdated 6 to 9 months. You're always updating and refreshing. So you can take advantage of the latest technology in a warehouse by partnering with someone like Amware, because we've already got that in our facilities.
Oh, that's amazing to hear the details on. I can just picture it as you describe it. I'm curious, when e-commerce brands are kind of looking at maybe Amazon FBA versus a 3PL like you guys, what are the considerations there? And, why do they ultimately choose, a company like yours?
So the Amazon Gateway is a great place to sell your product. It's a great place to drive volume and numbers. But you'll do that. It's sacrificing a couple of things. One is margin. You will probably not make the margins that you would like to make or that you can make selling off the Amazon gateway, but you'll drive volume, albeit at lower volumes, and the experience will be an Amazon experience. It will not be your particular brand's experience. So where you might like to have your packaging, your box, your logo, open it up, your experience. When you go to Amazon, they pack it their way. They'll tell you how to pre-package it for them. The box will come with an Amazon logo and a big smile outside. And so if you're willing to trade off your own brand recognition and your margins, Amazon's a great place to sell. When you come to someone like Amware, we package it the way you would want it packaged, in your box, in your paper. When your customer opens up that package that we've handled, it's a great experience. The smile is inside the box. Everything is orderly, great, as it was supposed to be. It's just a whole different experience. And that supports your brand. That's what you're selling. That's what your audience is selling, is their brand. And you want to protect that brand. We help you do that.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about that. I know a big piece of the Apple experience when you get a new iPhone or something like that is that box. That's a whole piece of it. Is the unboxing. Are you working with clients then where their branding is on the outside of the box and they're able to sort of reproduce an experience sort of like that?
No box that leaves my warehouse has Amware on it. So every box that leaves is a customer selected box. It's their own unique box. It's any way they want to have it. We'll put any packaging. We add personalized notes inside those packages as though it came directly from the e-tailer. So I'm totally transparent. Nobody knows they're getting a box from Amware. As far as customers who open those boxes and those packages, they think it comes right from the e-tailer, and it's it's a one-on-one experience that way.
That's great. I can see how that really enhances the brand experience of you shop the site. Maybe you saw the Facebook or Instagram ad. Now the box shows up and you know exactly what it is. So that's a beautiful piece of the brand. I love that. I see you've got seasonality on here as well. I imagine upswings in Q4 and times like that. How does somebody handle that on their own versus when they're working with, a quality 3PL?
Well, I couldn't imagine wanting to handle some of the seasonality on your own and what you would have to go through. Some of my bigger accounts see 60% of their business come in the fourth quarter. The holiday season is when it really ramps up, and I couldn't imagine if you're out there on your own, you're a smaller company, you've got to source people, you've got to source space, you may have to source additional equipment. I mean, that's a lot to manage while your sales numbers are going through the roof for that fourth quarter. We have accounts that run counter-cyclical. So we have some accounts that are very, very busy in the summer and the spring. And then we have accounts that are busy in the fall. So we have people that we can rotate through accounts. They're cross-trained in our buildings. A typical building probably has 10 to 12 accounts in them. So my people are trained to handle all 12 accounts. They'll stay with one account predominantly, but as the account slows down, we'll move them. We also have national accounts with staffing agencies, so that when we need temporary associates, and we do for many of the routine jobs that we have, we're able to access them because we're steady customers for them all year round. So I have access to people. I have access to real estate because the 2.5 million feet that I have, their landlords are more than willing to work with me. They won't ask me for a personal guarantee. I know many of your listeners are small. When they go to a bank, when they want to sign a lease, many times they have to have a personal guarantee on that space. It becomes very stressful. You're risking what you have. We have negotiated deals with realtors all over the country. So when we need space, we have access to space. So we can handle volume swings very, very easy. It's part of what we do. It's an expertise we've developed. And you get the same level of service during that time. You get the same day service. You get the same parcel service from us. It's really a great experience. It allows you to step back, just sell your product, just market, focus on that. It's probably what you're great at, what your audience is phenomenal at, and we'll handle the mechanics of the back end.
I love it. I see you have another one of Amware locations. Can you show us that slide?
Sure.
I think you make a great point of people get into this because they're passionate about, the product, the customers, the brand, things like that. Not necessarily, passionate about the logistics. So I appreciate you talking us through this. I imagine these locations have an impact on, how many days it takes to get to people's doorstep. Is that right?
So why have so many locations? Well, if you look at the locations, we're in the major population areas of the United States. The advantage to these locations and being in multiple locations, so I'll get to that in a second. But you're able to put your product closer to the end user, which means, one, it's a shorter transit time. They get their package much sooner than if you had to ship it across country. The rates for shipping it closer, obviously, the further a package goes, the more you pay for shipment. So you're able to place your product closer. You're able to place it and save money on the parcel. The other thing that's important to deal with if you're going to outsource your distribution is to deal with someone who's got multiple locations. Now you say, well, if I put my product in Chicago, or maybe if I put my product in Dallas, it's in the middle of the country. I think I'm satisfied there. There isn't an area in this country, one individual area, that's not susceptible to some act of God. Weather, in the Chicagoland area, in the Midwest, you get snow. You get torrential summers, downpours, thunderstorms. Dallas has ice storms. So the West Coast has earthquakes. The problem with putting, or the downside of necessarily putting your inventory in one point, is you're susceptible to that. if you wind up with a pandemic in a building, flu breaks out in the building. Not that unusual. If an operation shuts down, you're shut down. So if you're able to place your product in multiple inventory points, let's say 2, so you always have a backup. If something happens in one, if Atlanta has an ice storm, if New Jersey gets, a blizzard and has a foot of snow, you can still ship out of your other location, keep your customers happy, albeit it might be at a slightly, short term, you're going to pay for a little bit more parcel. But the bottom line is your income stream keeps going, your customers are getting their product, and life goes on, and it's all transparent to your customer. So having a network like this is very advantageous, and it's easy to take advantage of. And the nice thing about the third-party business is you pay for what you use. If you're in 2 locations, you'll pay for the space and services that you use in 2. You don't have to open up your own building in 2 locations and then wonder or worry about how big that should be and how heavily it should be staffed. So, good third-party providers can bring this level of closeness and opportunity and choice to your listeners.
Yeah, thank you for talking us through that. I'm curious, sorry if I missed this, is in terms of Amazon has really gotten people used to this sort of 2-day delivery nationwide if they're Amazon Prime. What's possible when people go through a 3PL?
Well, what's possible is you can get the whole country literally next day, but you'd go broke doing it, right? You don't want to pay for overnight. And Amazon, to your point, did raise the bar for all of us. Amazon showed us all what's possible about same day getting it out the door. In fact, same day delivery. So Amazon did raise the bar, and I think it made a lot of us better. Those of us that focused on how to improve our processes, similar to what Walmart did to the retailing business. Walmart made everybody better through a great logistics network of driving costs down and selling selling products at the cheapest possible price. So the Amazon experience has made us better, made us look and focus on how we deliver. I mentioned before that we have critical mass and buying power. So with 17 million shipments a year, I have tremendous rates that have been negotiated with UPS, FedEx, and DHL. My customers are able to take advantage of that. We pass a lot of the savings on to our customers. So they're getting the buying power of 17 million shipments. They may only do 30, 40,000 shipments a year, but they're getting that buying power collectively that all my customers bring to the table. So that's something that we can bring just similar as Amazon does. Amazon has great rates too, and sometimes passes those forward. We can do the same thing.
Yeah. And in terms of for the consumer who orders, then is that a 3-day delivery? Is that 5-day it arrives to them? What's kind of average?
So the business rule is decided by the e-tailer, right? If the e-tailer wants to offer free shipping, many times that's not going to be a premium service. It's going to be a ground 3 to 5 day service. Or you can order second day as well. It depends on who's paying for it. Again, a lot of it has to do with the uniqueness of your product. If you've built up brand loyalty and you've got a unique product that you can't necessarily source somewhere else, you might be willing to wait a few extra days to get it. If you're selling something that's easily displaced, maybe you're selling shaving cream and you say, yeah, I might be favorable to one brand, but if it's out of stock, I can either buy it somewhere else or I'll switch. In that case, you want to be sure that you're getting your customer second day delivery because they can get it anywhere else and they may want it in a hurry. That's not worth waiting for. So that's pretty much what decides what kind of mode that you'll pick for your customers is, what is their penchant for waiting? And interestingly, surveys that have been done have shown that customers are willing to wait an extra day or two and get free shipping as opposed to getting it next day and pay a premium.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that makes sense too, I think. For most things, we don't need it that fast. And so save a little money there. That's great. Is there anything else I should ask you about, Harry? This is very fascinating. I know you're such an expert in this. You've been doing it a long time. You might know better the talking points than I do. So I'm curious, is there anything else we should talk about?
Well, we should probably talk about what customers might think they're losing control, right? I'm outsourcing my product. I currently do it myself. My people are in the back. I can walk out. I can talk to them. I can check on them. I can watch things done. I can manipulate everything every day. I'm now giving something to a third party who may be located in Dallas, and I'm located in Florida, and I'm worried about control. So the story I like to tell people is I do a lot of insourcing for my meals. They're made here at home. And my wife is kind enough and gracious enough to cook for me. I'm not trying to be sexist. It's not my thing, but I've never complained about a meal at home. No matter how it came out, I've never said anything but great, dear, thanks. It's delicious. When I go out and I pay for my meal, I'm going to let that restaurant know if it didn't hit the spot for me because I'm paying for it. And I'm going to demand a little bit better, and I'm going to be all over it if it's not exactly what I want. Outsourcing your business is the same exact way. You get to set the parameters. You get to set exactly the level of service that you want. And all professional 3PLs will sit down with you and write a service level agreement and measure about 5 key performance indicators with you: on-time receiving, on-time shipping, damage-free, cost per unit. We'll sit down and we'll say, what are the 5 or 6 or 4 most important things to your business that you want to measure so that you can control that through me? And so I think one thing your customers should do if they're going out shopping for a 3PL is you're purchasing a culture. Is that 3PL aligned? It's like a marriage. It's not always the prettiest girl you want to marry. You want to make sure there's a lot more in common. You want to make sure culturally you guys are aligned. It's the same with picking a 3PL. And then you want to deal with a 3PL that, what kind of reports can I get? What can you give me every month? I want to see everything about my business. I want to see heat maps of where my products are being shipped to. I want to see cost per shipment. I want to see programs that you have that are aligned for Six Sigma, quality control, driving down cost. And I want to measure these 4, 5, or 6 things. And I want you to give me reports every month. And if you don't hit these numbers, I want to see a plan from you that gets you within those numbers. And you just develop that relationship with a third-party provider that eventually you come to have the relationship reach a point where they're literally an extension of your company. You really look at them as not a vendor, not a supplier of service, but someone who really starts to learn my business, truly understands it, and starts to come back to me with recommendations to your customer. Listen, if you packaged it this way, if you sold it this way, if you moved your product here, it'd be faster, you'd save money. I mean, that's what you want to get the relationship to. So I would argue that in a third-party environment, if the agreement is structured right, if you've picked the right partner, you wind up with much more control than doing it internally. Because let's face it, if my wife cooks a bad meal, I'm not going to say anything. If you've got hardworking employees that you look at every day and they get sick, they don't come to work, they make mistakes, whatever may happen, you're going to be a lot more forgiving because they're your people. You know how hard they're working. When you outsource it to me, you don't care about any of those things. Harry, you got to hit this. You're paid to manage all those things. You're paid to manage pandemics. You're paid to manage, weather. You're paid to get that product out the door. I don't want to hear excuses. And that's the reality of our business. That's what we expect. We don't ask for forgiveness. We give you a plan when we don't make it. When we don't hit it, we don't say, please forgive us. We say, hey, here's the reason. Here's why it's not going to happen again. And here's what we're going to do to make it right for you.
That's well put, Harry. I appreciate that. In terms of people who might be hearing this and thinking, I should look into this, is there a volume they need to be doing? I think you said 30 or 40,000, potentially parcels a year. Is there a point where it makes sense? And I wonder if you could just talk about that, of who's a good fit for you guys, where do they need to be?
So we generally ask customers, we don't really get involved. I would say probably less than 50 or 60,000 orders a year. Below that, there are smaller boutique types of third-party providers that can take you when they're that small. They're small themselves, and they actually look for customers that are small. Eventually, you'll outgrow them. But we're generally dealing with customers that have sales probably in the $20-30 million range at the low end. We've got customers that sell $1 billion. So we generally, Amware looks for customers that are in the 50 to 60,000 range annually, and will probably pay a service bill, a warehouse service bill in the $200,000 a year range, probably about $15,000 to $18,000 a month. Again, that's the entry with us. There are third parties out there that will do smaller than that. We will not.
Yeah, that's a helpful guideline. If people are hearing this and they say that all sounds great, how can they reach out to you guys?
So I would tell you our website, amwarefulfillment.com. has a lot of information, not just about Amware, but there's case studies on there. We probably have 100 case studies on there. There's just a wealth of information, like a library, that if, will guide you. It's not just about Amware. Obviously, we toot our own horn. It's our website, but there's information that you can glean from there that will point you in the right direction. Why you should, how to pick a third-party provider, and what you should look for, how you should structure your deal. And listen, we're always willing to help customers. We may not be the right fit. We'll give you to the people who are the right fit for you, because eventually, listen, word of mouth for us is critical. We do $200 million worth of business a year just here in the States alone. We're $750 million across the globe. But we rely on word of mouth. We have 2 salespeople that work full time for us. That's it. We rely on our customers, and we'll tell you, hey, we'll let you speak. Here's our customer list. You can speak to any customer you want about us. That's our best reference. So the website is great for that. It will help your listeners, and it will get them on the path to where they need to be.
Love it. I see there's a podcast as well. Looks like it's called Unboxing Fulfillment.
Unboxing Fulfillment is done by Chad Wazecha. Chad is in charge of technology and operations for us. Every week he's got a different guest. It's worth listening to. Chad is entertaining, does a good job with the podcast, and like yours, lots of information can be had there. And again, lots of guidance can be had from listening in. Thank you for that.
All right. Harry Draper, thank you so much for coming on, sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Egan, it's a pleasure. Happy to come back anytime.